I'm sitting at my desk in New York as the clock slides past 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. Out in Arizona, the Tucson sun has already disappeared beyond the horizon. It is now day 10 since Nancy Guthrie vanished. There has been no follow-up ransom note after yesterday's deadline came and went. There is still no proof of life. Only expanding search grids, an avalanche of tips pouring into Pima County hotlines, and volunteers sweeping the foothills beneath the glare of drone-mounted lights. And amid that tense, humming silence, Savannah Guthrie has remained publicly quiet. No fresh video, no new statement, no emotional sit-down interview. But today, that silence shifted, because someone else chose to speak. Anderson Cooper, 58, the silver-haired anchor from CNN who has faced down hurricanes, tyrants, and personal grief with his trademark composure, finally broke his quiet. He didn't do it on his program. He didn't stage a primetime special. He didn't even post a tweet. Instead, he spoke privately this afternoon during a video call with 6 trusted journalists and longtime friends. People who have shared green rooms and covered major stories alongside both him and Savannah Guthrie over the years. There was no recording, no transcripts. Just Anderson, described as more somber than anyone had ever seen him, finally releasing what he has quietly carried for years about Savannah and her mother. At 3:47 p.m., one of the 6 called me and said, "Anderson really opened up about the Guthrie dynamic. You need to hear this. It changes everything about how she's handling this." For more than an hour, I listened as they carefully relayed every detail. Every pause, every lowered tone, every moment when Anderson's voice tightened. By the end, it was clear this needed to be shared. Not for spectacle, not for attention. But because if you've followed this case, if you've studied Savannah's 2 videos, if you've questioned how she can appear so steady while her world is collapsing, then you deserve to understand what Anderson finally revealed. He began with a line that set the mood immediately. "I've interviewed Savannah more times than I can count. I've shared stages with her. I've laughed with her off camera, but I've never seen her like this. And I know why. It's Nancy. It's always been Nancy. The bond between them is stronger and more complicated than anyone outside that family realizes." He didn't rush into dramatic disclosures. He constructed the story carefully, like the journalist he is. Savannah wasn't raised by a mother who coddled, he explained. Nancy was, and still is, a force. After losing her husband at a young age, Nancy had no space for fragility. She had 3 children to raise in Tucson without a cushion, in a world that rarely forgives vulnerability. So she hardened. She taught Savannah that love wasn't something soft and comforting. It was armor. You earned it by enduring, by persevering, by refusing to let cracks show. Feelings were private. Public life was performance. Savannah absorbed that lesson so thoroughly it became embedded in her identity. At this point, Anderson reportedly leaned toward the camera, his eyes sharpening with the focus viewers recognized from his reporting. "I first saw it up close in 2012, he said. During election coverage, after long days of relentless travel, Savannah received a call in a hotel bar. Nancy had fallen. It wasn't severe, but it was frightening. Savannah stepped away briefly, then returned. When Anderson asked if everything was all right, she smiled tightly and said, 'Mom's fine.' Then she added, 'Worry is for people who can't handle things. I'm handling it. No tears, no venting, just forward motion.' That wasn't stoicism," Anderson said. "That was scripting." Nancy hadn't raised a daughter who processed fear publicly. She raised one who structured her responses the way she structured news copy. Facts first, emotion last, if at all. And now that same pattern is unfolding in real time. He urged those listening to rewatch Savannah's first video from February 4th. She begins with gratitude. She outlines Nancy's character. She acknowledges the ransom reports. Then she makes her plea. It's orderly, logical, controlled. That's Nancy's influence, Anderson explained. Don't react, respond. Don't emote, communicate. Don't beg, demand with dignity. When he discussed the February 7th video, the one where Savannah says, "We will pay," his tone intensified. She looked directly into the lens and delivered those words like a formal declaration. There was no tremor, no visible panic, just measured resolve. "I've covered kidnappings," Anderson said. "Families usually beg. They sob. Their voices break. Savannah didn't. Why? Because in his view, Nancy taught her that breaking equals losing, and losing equals failure. Failing her mother is the one thing Savannah has never permitted herself to do. He shared a private memory from 2015, when Savannah experienced a retinal tear that required eye surgery. She confided she was scared. After calling her mother, Nancy's response was simple: eyes are important. So is your job. Fix it and get back. Savannah laughed lightly and changed the subject. No dwelling on fear, just action. That's the a woman offering Bitcoin millions right now. Anderson said, "That's the woman staring down day 10 without collapsing. She's fixing it. She's moving forward. She's following the script Nancy wrote. Pain is private. Performance is public." Yet beneath that discipline, he believes Savannah is terrified. Afraid that if she falters, if she appears too desperate, she will fail the ultimate test of being the daughter Nancy raised. When asked whether Nancy would still expect that strength now, Anderson responded without hesitation. He believes Nancy built her that way intentionally, not from cruelty, but from protective love. The kind that says the world will break you if you let it. So don't let it. But that lesson comes at a cost. It produces a daughter who equates love with invincibility, who believes approval must be earned through control. He reflected on watching Savannah with her own children. She is softer. She allows them to cry. She gives them room to feel. He once assumed that was generational difference. Now he sees it as conscious correction, giving her children the emotional freedom she never had. Yet with Nancy missing, that freedom feels suspended. The old rules still apply. He closed that segment with a poignant observation when Nancy returns. And he insisted she will. Savannah will need more than an embrace. She will need liberation from the script. She will need to hear she never had to perform strength to be loved. Anderson asked those on the call to keep his words close for now. Let the search continue. But remember this dimension of the story. Savannah is carrying two burdens: the disappearance of her mother and the lifelong weight of conditional love. He didn't end there. He revisited the timeline of Savannah's public silence. For days she said nothing while officials spoke. "Look at the rhythm," he said. Not just the words. She waited until day 4 to post her first video. That wasn't indifference. It was discipline. The discipline Nancy instilled. Speak only when you can speak perfectly. In the second video, "We will pay," landed like a treaty clause. Calm, unwavering. That's Nancy's voice. He said, "Don't beg, don't crumble. Show strength." When someone asked if Savannah fears disappointing her mother even now, Anderson said he believes she does. He described it as if Savannah still imagines a scorecard. Handling this correctly. Answering yes to the invisible question, "Are you responding the way I taught you?" He shared another story from years ago during disaster coverage. Exhausted, Savannah called her mother and admitted she was worn out. Nancy replied, "Worn out is temporary. Quitting is permanent." Savannah returned to work at dawn. That's who is facing this abduction, Anderson said. That's who is saying, "Stay strong" to her mother in those videos. Strength is mandatory. Weakness feels like betrayal. As the deadline passed and no new message arrived, Savannah remained silent again, waiting for facts, for clarity, for control. To observers, that silence feels unbearable. To Savannah, it feels like loyalty. He ended with a quiet plea. When Nancy comes home, Savannah will need permission to stop performing, to cry, to rest, to be loved without proof. Anderson asked the group to let the investigation breathe. But when this ends, however it ends, this story must also be told. Not just the crime, but the inheritance of strength and its cost. He finished with words that lingered long after the call ended. "I hope when Nancy walks back into that house, she finally gives her daughter the right to be weak and still be loved." That is what Anderson Cooper shared this afternoon. No press event, no headline grab. Just a seasoned journalist answering a question hiding in plain sight. Savannah Guthrie is not only enduring her mother's disappearance, she is carrying the lifelong burden of proving she is unbreakable. That demand is both her shield and the thing that could shatter her if Nancy is not brought home soon. Tonight, the desert remains dark. Searchlights sweep. Tip lines ring. Wherever you are, watch those videos again. Look past the composure. See the daughter still trying to earn unconditional love, and if Nancy comes home, as we all hope she will, Savannah will need more than an embrace. She will need to hear the words she has waited her whole life for. "You don't have to be strong for me anymore. You never did. You can simply be my daughter." Anderson Cooper, at 58, finally voiced what many sensed but couldn't articulate. Now it's something we all hold. Bring Nancy home. And when she does, let Savannah finally rest in a love she never had to prove she deserved.